Hey there, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we have a 2023 NFL mock draft. Now, starting off with the Houston Texans, the first overall pick, there's a lot of different things that are in play here, but I think the most important thing is looking at getting a franchise quarterback. But before we make that pick, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more NFL draft content. At number one, Houston Texans, I think are going to go with CJ Stroud. He's had a very, very good season at Ohio State. Him or Bryce Young should be the first overall pick, in my opinion. I think there's some really good qualities about both. CJ Stroud is a really good pocket passer. Bryce Young offers a little bit more escapability and athleticism. However, CJ Stroud, I think very well could be the number one overall pick here. People have some reservations about him being an Ohio State quarterback. I don't think you should, really let that deter you from taking him. He is such a good progression reader. He's a guy that knows how to make a lot of the big time throws, has the arm talent for it, also has the knowledge of the defense, knows how to layer his throws. CJ Stroud at one. Number two is the Las Vegas Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders are faced with a big decision here. What are they going to do? This is a team that has, a slightly older roster and a lot of question marks with their team in general. I think when you look at it holistically, they could consider quarterback. They could consider other positions here. But for me, I'm going to go with Will Anderson, the most talented defensive player in the entire class, a guy that knows how to defend the run, get after the quarterback, doesn't break contain. He does a lot of great things when you put on the film of Will Anderson. He's a total game-changing player. Number three, we have the Carolina Panthers. It's no secret that they haven't figured out their quarterback position yet. It's not working with PJ Walker. Baker Mayfield was a failed experiment to this point. There's other holes on this roster too, but getting that franchise quarterback is critical. For me, it's Bryce Young. Number four is the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles, if they end up with the fourth overall pick, that is going to be a problem for the league. I think that's pretty clear that when you look over their roster, it doesn't have a ton of holes that are glaring, in my opinion, but they can get better up front. There's a lot of different things that they can do. You have to consider guys like Myles Murphy, Jalen Carter. I think they're going to add to that front seven. And to me, if they add a guy like Jalen Carter, for how big he is, he's super athletic, wins with his hands, wins with power. Jalen Carter would be a terrific defensive interior player for the Philadelphia Eagles. Next pick here is Jacksonville. Jacksonville has to get some playmakers on this team. And, Quentin Johnston's name has been rising heavily. And I think it's totally warranted as good size, good athlete. He's been a big reason why TCU has been so effective offensively. But I also look at a couple of the other playmakers, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Josh Downs is starting to get some big traction as well. All of those could be conducive options for Jacksonville. They have to get another receiver, in my opinion. But now you kind of have to look at it overall. Is it going to be for the value? Is it going to be you just need to get better overall? There's a couple of different avenues they can take, but I think wide receiver is the right move here. I'm going to have them go with Jordan Addison, who's having a nice season for USC. Has built some good rapport with Caleb Williams, and I think Jacksonville would be hard pressed to not go receiver at that point. Follow that up with the Chicago Bears. Once again, they did address that receiver position. And I think another thing that they could consider here is continuing to build that offensive line. You want to make sure that you have a solid foundation in front of Justin Fields. They tried doing that with Tevin Jenkins. I think they could come back here and go with Peter Skoronski. With how talented of a tackle he is, it makes sense. They traded a second-round pick for Chase Claypool. They go ahead and get a really nice tackle in Peter Skoronski. At number seven, we have the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks, they're not afraid to go down their board if they find somebody that they like. Now, they've done a great job with their recent draft here. They smashed some picks out of the park, which has been impressive for me to watch. They have some nice pieces on roster, and I think they're going to continue to build that defense as well. To me, I think Myles Murphy would be a seamless transition here. Obviously, they drafted Boye Mafe. Now they come back with Myles Murphy and really beef up that defensive front. I also think they could go with a guy like Brian Brzee here. Both of those picks make sense to me. I just think Myles Murphy is so talented. If you put him on that, in that Seattle defense, he's going to have a tremendous career. Number eight, we have the Detroit Lions via LA. And the Detroit Lions here, once again, maybe they continue to build up that defensive front. Do they go quarterback with Will Levis? I think it's possible that they wait another year in that quarterback position until next year. I'm not exactly sure how they're really feeling at this point, but Brian Brzee makes sense for me. That front seven has to get better defending the run, and that's what Brian Brzee is really, really good at. He does a nice job taking up gaps, really being a true run stopper, and he has a relentless motor as well, which is the perfect fit into Dan Campbell's defense. Number 9, we have the Houston Texans via Cleveland. Now, the Houston Texans have a good opportunity here to continue to add some playmakers. If you go up and look, they took CJ Stroud with that first pick. I think it's going to be possible that they look and select, his college teammate, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's been very limited by injuries. I think he's only played in 3 games so far this year. Definitely trying to progress back from injury. I don't think that should completely deter him from being, a top 10 selection. Now, when you look at what he did last year with CJ Stroud, he was, spectacular. And we saw Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase be a nice hookup later on in the NFL. I think that could be the same case here. Number 10, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers, there's a lot of pressure on this organization to make some decisions in terms of not only helping out the defense, but also this offense as well. I think that they're going to take a tackle. I really feel like they're going to have to build that, that offensive line group. Paris Johnson's been really good. Broderick Jones as well. Anton Harrison, all conducive options here. But Paris Johnson out of Ohio State could be the seamless plug-and-play guy. Now at number 11, we have the Detroit Lions once again. And I think that you could continue to look at the defensive side of the ball. I think that is a very, very realistic possibility. But I also think they'd be kind of hard-pressed to not look at that linebacker position, not look at the corner position. A couple of different ways that they can go. Cam Smith has been phenomenal so far this year for South Carolina. He's really good in run support. He's a good man-to-man guy. He's a player that is super, super effective in that South Carolina secondary, and he's definitely caused some steam. I'm going to have the Lions go there and continue to build up and try to build, a nice defense. Number 12 is the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are here. There's a couple of different ways that you can look at this. Maybe they go ahead and stick at the quarterback spot. Maybe they try to find that long-term answer there. Maybe they try to get an edge rusher. And Nolan Smith has been on my radar. He got buried in the depth chart just behind a lot of great edge rushers that Georgia's been able to produce. He's got the pec injury. That is going to affect his stock slightly. But at the end of the day, I think Nolan Smith has the talent. He has the athletic upside. He has the, working on the technical side of things. But Nolan Smith could be that guy here for Atlanta who's just trying to improve that defense. Number 13 is the Arizona Cardinals. And the Arizona Cardinals here have to get better on defense. I think that is honestly one of their big things, especially in that secondary. I think Kelee Ringo is a good fit for the Arizona secondary. You look at the 6'2" frame, twitchy athlete, 4.35 kind of speed. Overall, to me, that makes a lot of sense. Getting a guy like Kelee Ringo in the secondary could help bolster them a ton. Number 14, we have the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers are always looking to add some playmakers here. I think they should be anyway. With this team, Christian Watson just came on a little bit. I think that they will look at another, big-time playmaker. Josh Downs is still here, but Quentin Johnston, good frame, a guy that can make a ton of plays on the perimeter for a team. You think about Christian Watson, you think about Alan Lazard, and then you add in, this is a good overall group that you're putting together for whether it's Aaron Rodgers next year, whether it's, Jordan Love. I'm not sure who's going to be quarterback of the Packers next year, but whatever it is going to be, they're going to have some playmakers. They got a really good running back room on top of it. It could be a scary offense once again. Now you have the Washington Commanders. Washington is kind of in a position where they could even consider the quarterback position. And I think that would shock some people if that's what they do. I also think tackle could be a nice addition as well. A lot of different ways that they can go here. A lot of different ways, Washington can kind of attack things here. But this is one of the tougher spots to be. I know they have Logan Thomas already, but they add a guy like Michael Mayer in there, who is a phenomenal tight end, a guy that is great after the catch, good catch radius, tough physical guy on the line of scrimmage. Michael Mayer could be a high impact player for the Commanders. Number 16 is the Indianapolis Colts, and I think Will Levis is the seamless pick here. They don't have an answer at quarterback. Matt Ryan's not the long-term guy. Sam Ehlinger's not the long-term guy. They bring in a guy like Will Levis, who's had a really nice season at Kentucky so far. He's actually going higher than people were expecting. He's had a good year. You look at the physical tools that he has, you look at the play in the field, the eye test matches is, the actual statistical side of things. Will Levis is a legit quarterback prospect. Number 17, you have the LA Chargers, and the LA Chargers have had a lot of injuries across the board, a lot of different ways that you can look at this team. And I think it would be kind of interesting on this side of it. I think there is definitely a tackle need here. Anton Harrison from Oklahoma, I think would be a really good fit at that right tackle spot for the Chargers, and that is where I'm opting to go. Number 18, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals, once again, there is some offensive line concerns. I think that there's a couple of different ways that they can attack it as well, but I think overall offensive line is more so my concern here. Broderick Jones, Blake Freeland are some guys, but I'm going to go with Broderick Jones for the Cincinnati Bengals. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in a position where they don't know long-term where they're sitting at the quarterback position. And I'm actually going to go with a guy like Hendon Hooker, whose stock is currently on the rise. He's an older prospect at 24. However, he could be an impact player for them. I think this is Tom Brady's last year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think Hendon Hooker would be an interesting selection here. His stock's going to continue to rise with his athleticism, his ability to make plays off schedule. 19 is Hendon Hooker. Followed by 20, we have the Denver Broncos. And the Denver Broncos, once again, are here in a position where, I'm not exactly sure where they're feeling about this roster. Considering they just traded Bradley Chubb. What is the direction of this franchise? What are they going to do? A couple of guys that I do like for them. I think Antonio Johnson is a name to watch. I think a guy like Trenton Simpson as well, who brings some athleticism to that second level of the defense. A very, a stout unit, holistically speaking, with that defense. Trenton Simpson is going to be my pick here for the Broncos. Really good athlete and a guy that can make some big-time plays, especially in the run game. 21 is the New England Patriots. New England Patriots way, to me, is to go with a guy like Andre Carter, a nice pass rusher. They like to rotate their defensive linemen, but Andre Carter could be, a big impact player for them. You could also consider wide receiver at this spot. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but Andre Carter, a good physical defensive lineman, could stop the run and fits the New England mold. Now at 22, we have the Seattle Seahawks. And I think with the Seattle Seahawks being here, couple of different ways that they can go. They could look at that edge spot. Let's bump it back up here just a second. And, we had selected Myles Murphy already. I think they, once again, could look along that offensive line, maybe more specifically in the interior. I think Osiris Torrance could be a phenomenal selection. The Seattle team's done a really nice job just drafting good football players, regardless of where they feel value is in the draft. And I say value as in quote unquote there. Osiris Torrance here for the Seattle Seahawks, beef up that interior, really allow them to do what they do best and run the football effectively and go into play action after. Number 23 is the New York Jets. And the New York Jets, once again, I think there is an opportunity to improve long-term at that linebacker spot here. Drew Sanders and Cedric Gray are some names. Watching Drew Sanders, very instinctual linebacker, kind of fits the Joe Douglas mold here of guys that just know how to make plays on the football, and I have the Jets going there. 24 is the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills, overall, very, very solid roster. Holistically speaking, solid roster. But, I look at Robinson as a guy that could be a total game breaker for them. I know they just traded for Nyheim Hines. I know they had drafted James Cook, but I look at Robinson as a player that can be a huge impact guy for them. I really do believe that. I don't think James Cook gives you that same kind of, game breaking ability that Robinson does. And I think people are going to give me a little bit of heat about that pick, but I truly believe when you're this close to contention, I'm not worried about the running back value of taking one in the first round. That doesn't matter to me in this instance. Robinson can make big plays. He's able to break tackles. He's shifty, elusive, powerful. He's all of the above. 25 is the Baltimore Ravens. And I think once again with Baltimore, they have a good collection of playmakers, and I wouldn't be surprised for them to go ahead and look at that corner spot. There's a lot of value here, long-term, getting the corners, because at some point in time, they're going to have to cut costs somewhere. with trying to work in Lamar Jackson's contract. There's going to have to be some contracts that are cut. Brian Branch out of Alabama is going to be my pick. He's the perfect Baltimore Raven, fits into the scheme here defensively. And I think, when you are having to consider the future, Brian Branch could be a guy that you can really develop into a long-term corner, especially a boundary corner for this team. 26 is the Tennessee Titans, and the Tennessee Titans, are pretty notorious for drafting defensive linemen and hitting on those picks. And I'm kind of looking collectively here at, what is on the board. And this is a tough one, but I think they also do need to make some plays on getting a playmaker. Josh Downs, if you looked at his last game against Wake Forest, he was terrific in that one, had 11 catches for about 158 yards, I believe. A true playmaker, a guy that's really coming on at this point in the season. 27 is Dallas, and the Dallas Cowboys, I think they want to continue to improve that offensive line. I really do believe that. They've put some draft capital in that defense. I think, once again, it is wise to look on that offensive side of the ball. On the interior here, Andrew Voorhees out of USC could be a good selection for them. I've been favoring the offensive line position because their draft history suggests that as well. Once again, Voorhees, one of those guys that is not like the most exciting picks, but he's going to be a good tried and true guard that the Cowboys can rely on for many years to come. Now at 28, we have the New York Giants. New York Giants have to get some playmakers, and I think Kayshon Boutte is one of those guys. Kayshon Boutte is a silky smooth route runner, good strong hands. He's physical, guy that can make plays after he catches the ball. Overall, Boutte sliding to number 28 is one of the biggest steals in the draft. 29, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Kansas City Chiefs are, once again, in that position where they can look at a lot of different spots here. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they look at tackle as well. Blake Freeland could be another one of those players for them. So I'm going to go with Blake Freeland. I think he's a nice transition for them. They already have Orlando Brown, but Blake Freeland, could be one of those tackles they can rely on. Worst case scenario, they kick him into guard, and they should be, good to go from there. Number 30, we had the Minnesota Vikings. I think long-term corner is still a concern for me. Cam Dantzler's a guy that they like. Patrick Peterson, he's 32 years old at this point. Andrew Booth was a guy that, they had selected in the second round of this past draft out of Clemson. Good corner, but he finally saw his first real action today against Buffalo and definitely had some struggles. Not saying that that's going to be the case in his career. However, I think that they could look there. I think they could look, along the interior of that offensive line, or maybe they look at another playmaker on the offense. Jalen Hyatt could be another guy. Trey Palmer from Nebraska, former LSU transfer. A lot of players that I like at this realm here. I also think they could look at an edge rusher. I'm going to go with Tyree Wilson. I think the value is immaculate here at number 30. And the Minnesota Vikings already have DJ Wanham, Zadarius Smith, and also Danielle Hunter. But I think another edge rusher to that group could make some sense. Now, finally, at 31 with the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia, full of defensive playmakers, but I think getting a guy like Antonio Johnson this late in the draft makes a lot of sense. Good playmaker from A&M. I think he complements this Eagles secondary very, very well. So overall, I loved what we were able to draft here for these teams. I think it's going to be good impact on what they have currently on roster. And honestly, there's a lot of prospects I love this year. So appreciate you stopping by. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. Also, leave a like on today's video if you did enjoy the content. It's a lot of fun recording this. And we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.